What if the world woke up to find the chessboard of the Middle East not just rearranged, but set on fire? We are witnessing a tectonic shift in global power, a moment where years of shadowboxing have finally erupted into a full-scale regional inferno. It is Sunday, March 8th, and the geopolitical landscape has been permanently altered. To understand the gravity of the situation, we have to look past the headlines. People are calling this a war between the United States and Israel against Iran, but that description is far too narrow. It's not just a localized conflict, it's a regional wildfire. Iran, feeling the walls close in, has begun lashing out at a dozen different Gulf countries, turning the entire region into a pressure cooker. While Israeli leaders claim the war is progressing according to plan, the most dangerous question of our time remains unanswered. Is the objective simply to dismantle Iran's nuclear and missile teeth, or are we witnessing the opening moves of a forced regime change? This is the high-stakes gamble that could either stabilize the region or plunge the entire world into a decade of chaos. The sheer scale of the kinetic action is staggering. Over the past 24 hours, Mehrabad International Airport in Tehran has been turned into a graveyard of twisted metal. U.S. and Israeli airstrikes have hammered the facility, with reports confirming at least 16 aircraft were obliterated on the tarmac. This wasn't just a random strike, it was a surgical removal of Iran's ability to project power. We are seeing satellite imagery and ground footage of burnt-out wrecks and plane parts scattered across the runways, a visual testament to a precision campaign that is relentless. In Tehran, the explosions aren't stopping. They keep coming, wave after wave, like a hammer hitting an anvil. The Israeli Air Force has specifically targeted the IRGC's primary air defense command centers. Think of this as blinding the giant. By taking out the Revolutionary Guard Corps' ability to see and defend their own airspace, the coalition is essentially opening the door for whatever comes next. These strikes didn't just hit sensors, they leveled command posts, logistics depots, and the very factories where Iran's infamous ballistic missiles are born. One of the most telling signs of this campaign's effectiveness is what's happening at the Hamadan Air Base. Iran spent much of 2025 repairing the craters from previous Israeli strikes, trying to keep their runways operational. But in a display of chilling precision, the latest strikes hit the exact same spots. It's a message. We can put a bomb anywhere at any time, and your efforts to rebuild are futile. This isn't just a battle of bombs, it's a battle of wills, and right now, Iran's infrastructure is failing the test. But the most significant target lies in Isfahan. If that name sounds familiar, it's because it's the beating heart of Iran's nuclear program. This is home to a massive research complex that has been the subject of international dread for years. The fact that we are seeing strikes in this vicinity suggests that the red lines of the past have been completely erased. We are also seeing the deployment of the U.S. Army's M142 HIMARS systems, firing the latest precision strike missiles from Bahraini territory. These aren't your grandfather's rockets. They are highly mobile, long-range killers that are turning the tide of the ground-to-ground engagement. Perhaps the most shocking development of the week is the fate of the Iranian Navy. In less than 7 days, the U.S. has effectively neutralized most of Iran's naval capabilities. This includes the much-touted 250-meter drone carrier, a vessel Iran spent years converting into a mobile launch platform. It was supposed to be the first of its kind, a symbol of Iranian ingenuity. Instead, it has become a cautionary tale. Iran made a classic mistake by cramming its drone assets into one massive, slow-moving target. Ukraine could have told them that in the modern age of warfare, putting all your eggs in one basket, especially a basket that floats, is a death sentence. After months of defending against Russian air attacks, the Ukrainians learned to keep their assets scattered and rotating. Iran, however, chose the path of the sitting duck, and now that drone carrier is at the bottom of the sea. While the U.S. and Israel have technical superiority, there has been a glaring oversight in the strategy. Surprisingly, U.S. officials didn't bother to consult with Kyiv about their hard-earned expertise in defending against Iranian-made drones. This lack of communication became problematic early on. Iranian drones are a genuine asymmetric threat, and ignoring the lessons learned on the battlefields of Europe was a mistake that cost time. Interestingly, Ukrainian manufacturers are now offering a solution claiming they can export up to 10,000 interceptor units monthly. These low-cost interceptors have already downed over 1,500 Shahed drones in recent months. The U.S. and Qatar are now in talks to buy this technology, but in the meantime, the coalition is relying on experimental last-ditch weapons like the ODIN laser system. This technology is designed to blind drone sensors and force them to crash, acting as a high-tech shield for naval destroyers. Although it's been tested, the real test of fire is happening right now in Operation Epic Fury. While the air is filled with the smell of cordite and jet fuel, the electronic battlefield is just as crowded. The U.S. is deploying the EA-18G Growler to flood the skies with noise, jamming Iranian signals and watching as dozens of drones simply lose their way and fall into the sea. We are seeing a masterclass in modern electronic warfare, but Iran isn't just taking these hits sitting down. Their strategy has shifted from a conventional defense to a desperate, multi-directional lashing out. The Iranian Foreign Ministry has issued a chilling ultimatum to every neighboring state: deny the U.S. and Israel the use of your soil or face the consequences. They are citing Article 51 of the UN Charter, claiming a right to self-defense, but their actions tell a very different story. They aren't just hitting military bases, they are striking civilian infrastructure, oil refineries, and international airports. This isn't self-defense. It's an attempt to drag the entire Middle East into the abyss with them. Look at what happened this morning at Dubai International Airport. One of the busiest transit hubs on the planet was targeted by Iranian drones. This effectively shatters any promise from the Iranian Provisional Leadership Council that they would spare regional neighbors. They are striking Syria, Iraq, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Qatar, Oman, and even Azerbaijan. In fact, Azerbaijani intelligence just uncovered a massive Iranian plot to sabotage a major oil pipeline carrying crude from the Caspian Sea to Turkey. This is a direct attack on the global energy artery, designed to send oil prices into the stratosphere and force the West to blink. Even Donald Trump weighed in on Truth Social, claiming that Iran is being beaten to a pulp and is essentially surrendered to its neighbors. While his characteristic bravado paints a picture of a bully finally meeting its match, the data on the ground shows a more complex reality. If we look at the numbers from the start of the conflict on February 28th, the shift is undeniable. On day one, the sky was thick with blue representing ballistic missiles and yellow representing Shahed drones. But as the week progressed, those numbers have plummeted. Iran's ability to launch massive coordinated strikes is tapering off. Their arsenal is being bled dry, and their launch sites are being systematically erased from the map. Yet even in a weakened state, they are still dangerous. We've seen massive drone and missile barrages hitting Saudi Arabia and Qatar. Bahrain alone intercepted 86 rockets and nearly 150 drones in a single window. Saudi Arabia had to scramble to shoot down 16 drones heading straight for the massive Safaniya oil field. The Iranian leadership is essentially saying, if we can't have our sovereignty, no one gets their oil. This is the ultimate scorched earth policy. But the coalition is also feeling the sting. The U.S. is currently rushing to replace a $1 billion THAAD radar system in Jordan that was reportedly damaged by a drone strike. This is a reminder that even the most advanced shields in the world aren't invincible. When you saturate an area with enough low-cost drones, eventually something gets through. With much of their top-tier leadership already eliminated by U.S. and Israeli strikes, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps is now pivoting to what they call the Mosaic Strategy. This is a survival mechanism, plain and simple. Instead of a centralized command and control structure that can be decapitated with a single bomb, they are giving local commanders the power to act independently. Iran is divided into 31 provinces, and each one now has its own autonomous IRGC headquarters. The Iranian foreign minister admitted that their military units are now isolated, acting on preset instructions rather than real-time orders. The question is, can the IRGC hold it together under this kind of pressure? When a military loses its head, the body usually follows. There are even unconfirmed reports from Arab media that Special Forces General Esmail Khani was executed for espionage on behalf of Mossad. While these reports remain unofficial, the fact that they are even circulating points to a deep systemic paranoia within the Iranian ranks. When you're losing a war this badly, you start looking for traitors in every shadow. Meanwhile, the U.S. State Department has bypassed Congress to rush a $660 million bomb sale to Israel. This package includes over 12,000 heavy-duty 2,000-pound bombs and 5,000 small-diameter precision munitions. At an average cost of about $24,000 per bomb, the coalition is literally backfilling its silos as fast as it can empty them. This isn't a short-term skirmish. This is a sustained demolition of a regional power's military backbone. The economic fallout is already hitting the water. Shipping in the Strait of Hormuz, the world's most important oil choke point, has slowed to a crawl. In the last 24 hours, only 2 commercial vessels dared to make the transit. Since 20% of the world's oil flows through this narrow strip of water, the global economy is bracing for a massive shock. We're already hearing talk of the U.S. temporarily lifting sanctions on Russian oil just to keep the lights on in Europe and the U.S. It's a bitter irony. To fight one war in the Middle East, the West might have to indirectly fund Putin's war in Ukraine. As the oil markets tremble, a new and unpredictable player is entering the arena, the Kurdish resistance. For decades, the Kurds have been a stateless people spread across Iran, Iraq, Syria, and Turkey, but now they see a window of opportunity in the smoke of the U.S.-Israeli strikes. We are hearing reports that thousands of Iranian Kurds are organizing, preparing for a ground offensive that could tear at the internal fabric of the Iranian state. While most of their effective fighting forces have traditionally been stationed outside Iran's borders, the current chaos has created a vacuum. If these forces move in coordination with the aerial campaign, the IRGC won't just be looking at the sky for missiles. They'll be looking at their own mountains for an insurgency they can no longer contain. The world is watching a superpower and its closest ally systematically dismantle a regional adversary. But the ripple effects are reaching far beyond the Persian Gulf. Even in the Caribbean, there are whispers of great changes coming to Cuba, signaling that the U.S. might be looking to settle multiple old scores while the global order is in flux. It's a high-stakes moment where the lines between regional conflict and global restructuring are becoming blurred. Meanwhile, in a strange twist of irony, Vladimir Putin is calling for a halt to U.S. military operations in the Middle East, while simultaneously refusing a ceasefire in Ukraine. It's a masterclass in geopolitical hypocrisy, as Russia continues to provide technical support to the very Iranians who are targeting American assets. The world has become a house of cards, and every move in the Middle East vibrates through the trenches of Eastern Europe and the halls of the United Nations. We are at a crossroads. The next few days will determine if this conflict burns itself out, or if it becomes the spark for a much larger global conflagration. Will the Mosaic Strategy allow the IRGC to survive as a decentralized guerrilla force, or will the weight of 20,000-pound bombs finally bring the regime to its knees? The unanswered question remains: what happens the day after the bombs stop falling? A power vacuum in Iran could be just as dangerous as a nuclear-armed one. As we continue to track these developments every single day, one thing is certain: the world you knew a week ago is gone. We are living through history in real time, and the consequences will be felt for generations. What do you think? Is this the beginning of a new era of stability, or are we watching the first chapter of a global catastrophe? Drop your take in the comments right now. I want to hear your perspective on this. If this helped you make sense of the chaos, smash that like button and subscribe with notifications turned on so you stay ahead of the curve. Don't get left behind while the world reshapes itself.